Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Wednesday morning, political fighters. Welcome to the July 8th, 2026 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. And email me at richard@wcpt820.com. And follow me on all the socials under Choose Views. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views, featured interviews, by all means. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. And It's Democracy Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath. Out Chicago and our other great shows and interviews. And also, guys, in the evenings, make sure you're plugging into the Politics Bar, the Matt McNeil Show, and the Gailey Show. By all means. That's right. And what else can you do? Boy, I tell you, loaded up over at Heartland Signal. Right now, it's crazy. We've got stuff. Here you go, Henry. We've got a few articles there that you want to just make sure you're leaning into. But coverage, a coverage of the governor with Chris Welch, who is the Illinois speaker, talking about that the right thing for Harry Benton to have done was to resign, even as they believe he did it potentially to avoid ethics reports about his alleged sexual harassment being made public. Doesn't matter. They're saying that, he did it. He resigned. And listen, guys, I'm going to say this. Go check out the article, obviously, and check out the post at Heartland Signal. But this is going to sound a little preachy, maybe a little pedantic. Guys, just leave women alone. Right, Henry? Right, Mike? I mean, what the hell? Just stop. Just don't even go there. Just stop. I mean, Mike, Henry, you didn't catch this, but Mike played this clip, helped us put together this clip from when I talked about Graham Plattner 6 weeks ago, and I said, I think we got a problem, y'all. That being said, by the way, if you didn't catch Lawrence O'Donnell last night, you got to check his spot out on MS Now, talking about the Plattner situation and the at-large conversation. But, guys, just stop this craziness. I know it's been going on since the beginning of time and whatever people want to try to use to justify it, Henry, but at this point, just stop, because dudes are getting caught. And that's, okay, so you remember a few years ago, Will Smith said a version of this, that these police hate crime or police abuse crimes on black men specifically wasn't something new. It was just being recorded now. Okay, that's maybe not exactly the words, the way in which he said it, but the message was well received and well put. Guys, right now what's happening is, in case you didn't figure this out, a lot of these guys that are getting quote-unquote caught, if you will, Henry, with regard to their bad behavior, it's happening because they got into some sort of text thing with the woman, right? And then they may have left a message, voicemail message, or they send what pics, stuff like that. So, maybe take a little bit of worldly advice from Will Smith. This isn't new. It's just now that there's evidence that's in somebody's hand. It's right there. A phone that said that the guy texted me all these crazy messages, or he sent me some pictures, or fill in the blanks. There may be recordings of the event. Stop it, guys. Just doggone it. Stop it. I'm tired of guys doing this stuff. Leave women the hell alone. If they don't want you up on them, then stay away from them. Ask permission. And I'll be honest with you, this hyper male toxic masculinity stuff is just garbage. And at the same time, I also am mindful of, don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to be, where this stuff can come up. And that goes to both sides, okay? That goes to both sides. I remember lessons I remember hearing my father talk to my older sisters about, don't put yourself in a situation where you could be vulnerable. And I learned a lot of lessons from that. He told me the same thing, for those out there who say I'm being gender biased in that statement. No, I'm not. My father told me the same thing. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're vulnerable when it comes to, at that time, he was saying girls, the opposite sex. And he said the same thing to my sisters. Don't put yourself in a situation where you'll be vulnerable, because some people don't make the best decisions sometimes. So I'm not putting any of this on the victim. I'm not. You all know me well enough by now. I'm not. I'm putting it on those who put themselves in situations they shouldn't be in. Have some discretion. Use some common sense. And just be respectful. And this is the other part too, guys. That I told you I was going to sound a little preachy about this, but doggone it, have some respect for yourself too. I mean, right, Henry? I mean, if you've been out with your guys and you guys have had a great show and you know that there's a possibility there's going to be somebody that might roll up on you to want to talk to you. But if you're not of your right wits, I probably need to step away from this, right? Because this could go the wrong direction very quickly. And I'm saying that in all due respect to anybody that's out and about, dancing, partying, hanging out, going to a business meeting, conferences, just don't put yourself in those situations. Have the ability to say, I probably shouldn't be here. Let me go back to my room. Let me go home. Let me grab my boys and let's get out of here. And this sort of discretion about don't put yourself in these vulnerable situations expands into things like if a party's about to go the wrong way, and it's not even something that's quoted, we'll put this in not in the non-sexual lane, just at a party, and it's about to go the wrong way, you need to get your behind out of there. Grab your keys, get with your boys or your girls, and say, you know what, it's time to leave. There's a point where we all have got to go, okay, it's time to go. We have to end this. And I'm just asking all of us, for the sake of whatever, please stop putting ourselves in these situations. Whatever happened with Benton, he's got to deal with that. But doggone it, guys, keep your hands in your pockets. Keep your hands away from other people. If they don't want your physical presence up on them, then back away. And politicians and business leaders, coaches, ministers, pastors, priests, omans. If you got a parishioner or you got a staff member or you have a colleague, just because they are attractive or you might have a vibe with them, that doesn't mean you have the permission or the right to step up on them. And I know this might seem a little bit maybe too granular for some, but it doesn't give you the permission to do that. You need to back away. And if you're in a relationship, you sure as hell need to back away. Just because that vibe is there doesn't mean you get to cross the line. So let's start to have a little bit of self-management here, a little bit of self-respect when it comes to this. And this is not necessarily political, but a whole lot of politicians are getting themselves caught in the ringer. So let's cut that out, y'all. I told you it was going to sound a little preachy, but every now and again something like this just hits me, and I'm like, come on, what the hell? And of course, we have a president that's what's in my coffee, Henry? Let me check and see. Mike, what's in my coffee, man? I made it myself, so I should know. All right, guys, on today's show, Kurt Mullett, our great friend from Hoosier Blue 63, will be hanging out with us in the 6:30 hour. Dr. Thomas Fisher will be joining us in the 7 o'clock hour. And H.H. Leonards will be with us, a co-founder of 51 Steps to Freedom, will join us in the 7:30 hour. I haven't talked to H.H. in a long time, but I'm sure you'll appreciate the conversation that we're going to have. Dr. Fisher and I will probably talk a little bit about healthcare and some of the systemic problems that we have that we need to work on as a society. And Kurt and I are just going to throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks. Not really, but we've got a couple things we're going to cover in terms of what's happening in the States and what's going on. I'm sure he and I will have a conversation about what's going on in Maine. So there you go. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we got some Choose Views news for you, some what things that are going on with other shows, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are going on in states when it comes to the upcoming midterm elections. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you're just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu. The question of the day is what the media saying, covering, and reporting aligned with your experience in the world today? So, is what the media covering, saying, and reporting aligned with your experience in the world today? Want to hear what you have to say? Send us a text at 773-763-9278, or you can call us at that number. Henry's going to open the lines up in a sec. And you can also go to our Facebook page and tell us your thoughts there. But is what the media saying, covering, and reporting aligned with your experience in the world today? Let us know what your thoughts are there. Going to hit you with a couple of quick Choose Views news items and a little bit about our other shows. But today, July 8th, here are a couple of things that I thought you might want to know a little bit about. Jet fuel prices are down, but flyers are still paying up. Flying may have become cheaper for airlines, but not passengers. While the price of jet fuel, which doubled in April when the Iran war began, is now down 40%, travelers aren't seeing much difference in airfares. That's partly because carriers haven't restored many canceled routes. They've also hiked fares 8 times since the start of the war, according to Deutsche Bank. The loss of Spirit Airlines also helped others maintain their pricing. Some analysts say that while Americans aren't foregoing their summer vacations, bookings may decline in the fall. Walmart cuts prices on everything from beef to backpacks. They're lowering prices on thousands of food products, from food to drinks to toys to apparel. And it looks to give customers some relief from the persistence of inflation. The price of cherries, for example, is being halved, while ground beef, an ongoing source of concern for shoppers, ranchers, and the government alike, will drop 12%. Walmart has long touted its prices as a major selling point, but that strategy has proven especially effective in recent quarters. The tobacco companies are going all in on nicotine pouches, and I'm not crazy about this. After years of steadily declining cigarette smoking rates, tobacco companies have found a new growth market in nicotine pouches, according to the New York Times. Buoyed by the FDA decision allowing market leaders Zyn to be marketed as a safer, quote, alternative to cigarettes. Zyn, the maker, their makers, Philip Morris and other tobacco giants, are rushing to expand production, with the nicotine pouch market expected to reach $40 billion globally by 2033. My comments are, if you have children or young adults in your family, be mindful of the pouch. And last but not least, major banks in talks to exploit the debit card loophole. This one really, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo are among the major U.S. banks considering an acquisition that could increase the fees they charge on purchases made with debit cards, according to the Wall Street Journal. A law limits the fees big banks can charge merchants, but only if the transactions are routed through an outside network. There are no caps on these interchange fees over a bank-owned network. However, the U.S. bank giants have discussed buying one from Pfizer, though they fear the political backlash. Yes, there will be. They start raising fees, banks start raising fees again in that space. Yeah, there will be some backlash, trust me. Just a couple of quick Choose Views news items today. And stay tuned for the Joan Esposito Show, live, local, and progressive. She'll be talking to Greg Hines, Rick Smith of The Rick Smith Show. And, of course, that's live, local, and progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT, AM 820, the Heartland Signal website, and TuneIn. Tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by her Wednesday guest co-host, Ken Mejia Beal, and their guests include Heather Weischer from the Illinois Park and Recreation Association and Pam Hamill of the Addison Park District. Marcus King, candidate for the DuPage County Board, District 3. That's Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 here on WCPT, Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And then tomorrow, here on Choose Views, I'll be joined by Mike Nellis, Democratic strategist, Steve Phillips, columnist of the New York Times, and Kate Lincoln Goldfinch, immigration attorney. You guys know about Kate. Looking forward to chatting with all three of our guests tomorrow. So make sure you tune in, and we'll give you another reminder of that before we end the show today. All right. So, wow, some text messages definitely. Let's see what we got. Yeah, wow, good stuff. We'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, so when I talked earlier about the states, what did I mean by that? We're inside of that window where we're get through the end of the summer into fall. And, once Labor Day hits, as you guys know, when we have a general or midterm elections, no matter what's been happening when it comes to the primaries or when it comes to the specials or any of the off-year, quote-unquote, elections, things heat up after Labor Day during a general election year, like in 2024, and during a midterm season. We don't like to call it midterms all the time, but the congressional races, things are going to heat up after Labor Day, just kind of how we've been rolling for decades. I've voiced this concern. Many others have as well, and that is this. What's going to happen when it comes to how the federal government, more specifically Donald Trump, is going to try to impact, influence, steal results of the midterm elections, particularly in blue states. And so I've been, very just casually keeping an eye on certain things that state leaders are doing. And I said this months ago that what needs to happen, and I said this particularly after ICE was showing up in different cities, is that our state leaders, our governors, our AGs, our lieutenant governors, and our secretaries of state, along with the houses, the chambers, rather, in the state legislatures need to be proactive. Henry, wait until, stuff starts to crumble. Ain't gonna get us anything this time. We need to be proactive. We need, and I think being proactive does a couple things. Obviously, it creates the legal armament that we need to be ready for the garbage and the junk that's going to come from this administration. That's the first piece. This is not necessarily in a particular order, but these are the things that come to mind. So proactive when it comes to our legal presence. Create the tool now so the tool is ready to be used when we get into October and November, okay? The second reason I think it's important to be proactive right now, in my commentary on this, is that it will, I believe, inspire voters to say the Democrats are ready to fight. And start that now rather than, the last week of October. Because the concern of voters across the board, and more specifically in blue states, has been what will the administration try to do in terms of coming after our votes? And that means having ICE at the polls, having all this other garbage going on. So let's start now to have the legal arm or tool be ready, one. Second, it will, I believe, help to give voters the thought that, okay, the Democrats are working on this. They got something in place. And I need to become a part of this. I need to get myself ready now. I need to be thinking about my voting, even though it's August or September. I need to be thinking about what I'm going to do leading up to the election, and specifically on voting day. Or am I going to vote? Or if I can vote early, how am I going to do that? If I can vote by mail, how am I going to do all those things? I think it gives voters the ability to see that the Democratic machine and Democratic leaders are doing the things to be preventative, to be proactive. And the third part is I think it will send a subtle message to the Republicans that we aren't playing around. They whether they take it or not is a different story. But my mind says, let's not give them any hope that we aren't prepared. Let's not let them think, oh, the Democrats, they're gonna kind of stumble into the midterms. No. The show of force is a show of force. We need to have a show of force as a voting bloc. And right now, there are 5 states that have definitely leaned into this. California, Governor Gavin Newsom has warned that anyone who helps Trump interfere with California's midterms will be prosecuted. So, blue and purple state governors have been among those at the front line pushing back against Trump's claim of rigged elections and election fraud. And we have won many court battles to block Trump's attempt to get voter data in order to construct a database that, along with the passage of the SAVE Act, would allow the administration to order states to purge voters. That's their goal. They want to be able to purge voters. They want to be able to say that, I'll give you an example. I'll use my own name. My last name is Chew. It's spelled C-H-E-W, as you guys know. But they want to be able to say that name, Richard Chew, is that an immigrant name? Is he from someplace in Asia? And let's check his papers. That's what they want that to be. Mike's last name is Mercado. They want to be able to say, is that an immigrant name? Let's check and see. Are there 5 other Mercados on the voting roll in the city of Chicago? That's where they want to do this name dupe stuff and then start dropping people. That's where it's coming. And even if your name is Smith, but you got a tan like I have, they want to be able to say, is Richard Smith the same Richard Smith that's further down the street? And he voted. That's what they're going with. That's why they want the data, Henry. They want to be able to try to, Chris Kobach, help me out, guys. He created a program a few years ago that was a voter roll kind of filtering system. And I forgot what it's called now, but I remember his name. But he created this program that was designed to do just that. It was designed to go in and try to create duplications of names to say that there was voter fraud. So California is one of the states that's taking the lead in terms of making sure that they're warning the Trump administration, or they're warning individuals, anyone that tries to affect the voting in the state of California and tries to get in the way of the voting in the state of California will be prosecuted. Colorado is another one. Governor Jared Polis is also leaning into this. Maryland is doing the same thing, and Washington, the state of Washington, is doing it as well. So I'll keep you guys posted on this. I'm going to stay aware of it as best I can, and any updates that I have in that space, I'll let you know. Let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and our good folks at WARR in Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chew. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you're just tuning in, I'm Richard Chew. Thanks for being with us this morning. Today's question, is what the media saying, covering, and reporting align with your experience in the world today? Some great comments from Nancy this morning. Basically, I agree, Nancy. It does appear, and it has for a while, that the media is bending themselves into a pretzel to try not to say critical things against Donald Trump administration, his cabinet, and all the rest. And they've been doing that since 2015, if we look back far enough. So, yeah, good point there. And Lois, yes, you're right. It was called Interstate Crosscheck. Mike also sent it to me. Yes, Interstate Crosscheck. That's what it was, Chris Kobach. And it was a tool that it's the tool that they're kind of digging out of the grave, if you will, to try to re-implement right now. That's why they want the data, guys. But there are states that are saying, come this way and you're going to pay a price. Throw those bums in jail. All right, 6:30, Wednesday. What does that mean? It means we're talking with our good friend, Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blues 63. Good morning, Kurt. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard. How are you doing today? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. I'm doing great. I'm talking with you, so that is always going to make my Wednesdays pretty good. So I got a big smile on my face. I know we can't see each other this morning, but I got a big smile on my face. So there, deal with it, brother. Deal with it.
Yeah. So do I.
Oh man. So
even though it's a bit early.
Yeah, I know. I got to ask you a question. Is do you think that Mitch McConnell is still with us, or is the GOP giving us a head fake?
Oh man, you had to go there, didn't you?
Well, Paul from Seattle.
Let me put it to you this way: Mitch hasn't been with us for quite a while. Okay, how's that? I'll leave it at that.
All right.
Mitch hasn't been there for quite a while.
We'll leave it at that. Fair enough. Paul from Seattle said to me yesterday that he thought I was being a little bit easy on Mitch because of all the hell that Mitch has caused for us. The pain that he's enduring right now with the healthcare and being covered by the healthcare system that he doesn't want for anybody else. Paul was a little bit saltier than I was about it, but yeah. Oh
man,
I mean,
I've seen a lot of comments about Mitch, and I understand where the the angle comes from with people. So there's more.
We still want to be respectful to someone's health. I know where you come from on this.
Yes. So that's true.
Well, there's another thing I want to talk to you about. Let me just ask you your thoughts about what's taking place in Maine. I've watched some of the things that you've posted, and what are your thoughts about where we are with that situation?
Well, we should move away from him. Graham has, exposed himself, and there's just no tolerance for that kind of behavior. And we as progressive Democrats especially cannot, we cannot accept any of it whatsoever, period. It has to be, we have to change this mindset in our country, and it's going to take a long time to do it, but we're on the right track right now, and we need to keep moving forward on it. And I get so sick and tired of listening and hearing people's excuses and making comments about, they accuse a lot of times, and it's not. I mean, stop it. It's just ridiculous. We have to start listening to the women and believe in the women. And you know where I come from on this.
Yes, I do.
I said this to you a long time ago. I'm a true believer that women should be in charge. Period. We should give them the gavel. We should give them whatever you want to, analogy you want to throw out there. We should let them be in charge, and let's give them a shot at it for a while, because so far our 250-year experiment, or whatever you want to call it, which I that phrase just bothers me too. But,
yeah, I know.
We haven't really done so good being in the hands of the white guy. So let's change things up and give it to the women, because my experience in life is that most of the things that have been positive in my life have come from the women that I have shared my life with, not the dudes. And that's not saying anything about my dad, or I'm just saying. My experiences in life. So.
And the dudes that have brought good experiences to us have oftentimes been dudes that have got their heads right when it comes to the women in their lives. That's kind of isn't that kind of interesting? I mean. And I've said this to you before on the show. I've said it to you in private. My litmus test for years with guys that I became friendly with and professional relationships with is I ask myself the question, can I trust this person to be alone with the women in my life? And that was always my litmus test. And I know that a lot of people might go, that's kind of weird. But think about it. Press pause on it before you pass judgment and ask yourself that question. And that was kind of my litmus test. And it still holds true today.
Listen, I've always listened to their language. I've always listened to their actions or what they say when you're sitting at a bar having a beer with someone or having a drink with someone, and you listen to what they say, because that's always been a major turnoff for me. So, Graham, see you, bud. You had your 15 minutes of fame, but you blew it. So it's been revealed who you are. So. I'll forget your name.
Wow, that's what I'm loving. Hey, man, let me ask you this question, or just bring this to the conversation on this subject. One of the things that was said, that Lawrence O'Donnell said last night when he talked about this, is, and he made it clear. He said, listen, I was one of those people early on that said something doesn't feel right. And he said, I just didn't feel like it was right for me to speak about it, but I just didn't know. I also didn't want to have a lot of coverage of him early on because I felt like he hadn't been vetted properly. And I said my version of this back last year and then again in May when the text things came out, that we didn't, in an embrace that's this important, we needed to know more about the person, irrespective of where he sat on saying the right things about affordability and about this and that and the other. And so that to me is where I'm going to just say it. We hold a little bit of the responsibility because of the need to have a replacement so bad that we looked past some people who had proven themselves and were already vetted because of us knowing a little bit about them. And Lawrence O'Donnell talked about that last night, and I agree with him in part that we got to slow this train down of just jumping on the bandwagon because and do a little bit more work. And you're really good at research. You dig into things. Really, you always talk about that, and you do such a good job in that space. You think that we need to sort of add a little bit of that to our meal right now?
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of things that you just said right there. I can dig into. I definitely, I appreciate the research thing, and yes, I do. And I'm lucky to be associated with some people that do an extensive amount of research, and we share it with each other. So that's the one thing. But yeah, we have to slow this train down. Your comment about we are so desperate to find that shiny coin at the bottom of the pond that we're not paying attention to everything that's going on. We have that going on in Indiana right now. We've got this shiny coin by the name of Bo Bai, and everybody's just like, oh, look, Bo Bai. And we're not paying attention to the details that are behind this kid. And the same thing happened with Graham, and it's happened across the country. But this is the way people react. We want that charismatic, that figure that we can all just, get behind. And Graham Plattner was a very well-spoken. He was an Army veteran of the military.
He checked some of those boxes. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and we failed to do the research on him and understand who this guy was, or who this guy is.
Yeah.
And now it's just, I think it's just another exposure of the Democratic Party and what you said, some of our desperation of trying to find that leader or that person that's going to change everything. And that's not what's going to happen. This isn't going to be a one cycle, one election cycle,
nope.
One candidate, one vote. This isn't going to happen like that. This has to be a process. We have to dig ourselves out of this hole that we are in right now. There's a reason that the state of Indiana has a 24% approval rating of the Democratic Party, and on the national level, we're about 37 to 39%, depending on what you read. There's a reason for that. One dude isn't going to, save us. And we use that word here in Indiana, like Bo Bai is going to save our state. It's absolutely ridiculous. What happens is when we do things like this with Graham Plattner, it actually pushes us down further and puts more of a roadblock onto us because it makes us look like idiots.
What did I say?
It makes us look like fools.
What did I say back in May, Kurt? Listen, we're about to get embarrassed because there's something else is going to come out, and we're not even 6 weeks gone.
It's just crazy. I mean, how many times are we going to drop the hammer on our foot before we finally realize I got to move my foot, or I got to hold on to the
or put the hammer down,
or put the hammer down. I mean, it's like it's just ridiculous.
Because then what then doesn't happen, Kurt, is it doesn't allow us to turn our energy, our fire, our good ideas, and all these things onto the Republicans to out their garbage, which is far worse. But I'm gonna throw this to you now to give you a moment to think about it. We'll take a We'll take a little bit of a break, but I do want to get your thoughts to our, one of our neighboring states and what's going on with that election. I know that you pay attention to all this stuff like all of us do, but we've got this important Senate race in Michigan, and obviously 3 good candidates, not 3 good people. Coming from different perspectives on it. But let's talk about this when we come back. But the Mallory McMorrow decision to suspend her campaign, and then, obviously the other 2 candidates had their debate last night. So let's take a quick break, Kurt. When we come back, we'll talk about what's happening up in Michigan. 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. And by the way, you got to check out AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu talking with Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you are just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu. We're talking with our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63. So, Kurt, the Michigan Senate race started off with McMorrow, Stevens, and Dr. Syed. And Mallory McMorrow over the weekend said that she was suspending her campaign. Last night, Haley Stevens and Dr. Syed had a debate. I didn't get a chance to watch all of it, but I caught some of the clips. And give me your thoughts. I don't want to lead you on this, but talk to me about your thoughts about that race, because it's an important Senate seat.
Well, I'm an Abdul El-Sayed fan. I mean, that's who I'm supporting. That's who I'm backing. And just for the principal fact that he is what direction the Democratic Party and progressives in this country really need to start going towards, and that is staying away from corporate PAC money and AIPAC money. The things that are going on right now with the merger or the attempted merger of the Israeli military and the United States military is something people really need to pay attention to. And this is where we have to, I truly believe, throw our support and attention to are people like this. I don't obviously know either one of them. I can only give you my opinion on what I have seen of them. I think Haley is a very well-spoken person. I believe in women getting into office. This is not anything about the gender of them. I think Mallory was a very well-spoken individual. But when you're funded by AIPAC money and corporate PAC money, which is being discovered, Mallory was not, and this is what's happening, that people have to be paying attention. Mallory was not funded by an AIPAC organization, so to speak,
right? Because
AIPAC organizations now are hiding where the money's coming from. But Mallory was part of the bench, which is where James Tallarico is at, the bench. And people need to understand what the bench is all about and who is funding the bench, because the people that are funding the bench and majority Democrats, they are the same people that pour millions and millions and millions of dollars into AIPAC organizations and into AIPAC. So they're changing the way that it appears because they understand that there's people out there that, oh, wow, they're starting to pay attention to this.
Yep.
So I'm absolutely 100% an Abdul El-Sayed fan, and I think that is the future that we need in this country, that is our candidates and elected officials who are going to fall in line with doing what's right for the people and not bending the knee to the corporate and to the Israel PAC money. And look, this is not an anti-Jew. I'm not being. You can be against.
I'll grab the baton from you. You can be against what the Israeli army and the Israeli government, led by Benjamin Netanyahu, are doing in the Middle East, and not be anti-Semitic. I'm going to say that loud and clear for the people in the cheap seats. you can be against a particular part of what something is and not be against its entirety. I am fully against what the Israeli government is doing now, and the Israeli army and military are doing to people in the Middle East, and funded indirectly by our government. I am not against the Israeli people, and I never will be one to say something that's going to be viewed as anti-Semitic. So this is, let me help my man out here, because I know you were trying to say that, but you wanted to make sure you cross your T's and dotted your I's. I know. Listen, I'm going to full-throated say that because I want people to understand where I stand on this. Stop. We have to stop funding things that are killing babies and old folks. Period.
Exactly.
So anybody want to come at me about that, bring it on. But we don't need to go down that path right now.
It's just like this. I don't know how many people are aware of this, but yesterday or the day before, Israel just launched the largest non-nuclear bomb in history. That's what they're saying, on Lebanon.
Yeah.
Okay. And I saw video of it. It was on sacred historical areas of Lebanon.
Yeah.
Now, why is this happening? What does this have to do with the Iran war? What does this have to do with what's going on? Why is this continuing? And this is what people need to pay attention to. This is why a ceasefire agreement will never occur, because all of them have had some form of Lebanon being taken out of the picture and the bombing stopped there. And Bibi is not going to allow that. People need to understand the reason that we are in this conflict and the reason that no agreement will ever be made is because Bibi Netanyahu is calling the shots. This is why he wants to merge the militaries. This is why they want to do that. They're presenting it as, well, I don't want to take any more funding from you. No, you don't want to take our money. You want to take our military is what you want to do, because that's basically the bottom line of what's happening and what they're trying to push through our government right now. And
and we all know,
mind-boggling to me that people aren't talking about it more. It's absolutely crazy.
Here's a piece of this that I want to make sure I cross this the right way. The merging of the military will be a merging of money, and that money, because of our military budget is so large, will end up providing more money to Israel. But anyhow,
technology and it'll merge all of it. Technology,
right.
access, manufacture, all of it, the whole thing.
All right.
I mean, that's what this is all about.
So, no. Michigan is definitely that Senate race is super important.
Yeah. It absolutely is.
And I think that one of the reasons that Mallory McMorrow may have caught a little bit of heat that she didn't expect is when she accused Dr. Syed of not being a physician. That's unfortunately, her people should have stayed away from that. And I think it caused a lot of people to push back on her to say, well, where is that coming from? To accuse him of not being that when he already made it clear, he is, first of all, but more importantly, he chose to go in a direction of medicine rather than practicing in a quote unquote hospital, if you will. But that's, right. I think that also it sort of turned some people off a little bit. Let me be clear. I just got a text from somebody that I want to speak loudly to. Kurt, I asked a question of Kurt about the race in Michigan, and I don't remember if you said that Dr. Syed is not a Democrat. What you said is that he's not taking money from any of the traditional corporate PAC dark money that's funding a lot of Democrats. And it's funding a lot of Republicans as well. We know that. But the thing I want to be really clear with everybody about, we all have to make a decision as to how we're going to vote and who we're going to support. And I think that the move that's taking place with someone like Dr. Syed is that he's speaking very clearly about issues that are important to everybody in the state of Michigan and the rest of the country. So if he's a Democrat, or if he's a left-leaning Democrat, if he's a progressive or a moderate Democrat, He's still a Democrat. He's still running as a Democrat because he believes in democratic political principles. He's just saying the things that a lot of other people are not willing to say and standing behind it as it relates to policy issues and what we can do to fix certain things. And a big one for him right now, and I'm seeing this from older white voters in Michigan, is that he really is locked into making sure that health care is one of his big platform items. He's locked into that. And so I'm impressed with that part of his campaign, as he has been unrelenting about and unapologetic about we have to take care of our healthcare system. We have to take care of it for all people in the community. And he's been very, very clear about that. So, and not surprising given that he is a doctor. So there you go.
Right,
there you go, Mallory McMorrow.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that text come from. I never said he wasn't a Democrat, but there's a lot of narrative out there right now that everybody who identifies as a democratic socialist or as a left-leaning Democrat or as a true progressive, now all of a sudden there's a narrative that we're not actually Democrats and we should go start our own party. And, my response to a lot of people has been, well, centrists are not really Democrats, so why don't the centrists go start their own party because they're more right-leaning than they are left-leaning. When universal health care and, affordable housing and not killing children become an issue for people when we have candidates speaking about that, when that becomes an issue for people and they don't, they want to point out other ridiculous things, I have to question, their motives behind what they're saying. So, because this is something all of us need, majority of us want. And what we need other thing we need to understand right now is that this big, beautiful bill and all of these things that have happened, they have not really hit us yet.
Nope.
Okay. They're just now starting to trickle into, let me tell you, if things don't change, if this isn't stopped here quickly, a year from now, it's going to be really bad for a lot of people, especially people of our age, Richard. Those people out there that are struggling on the Social Security and are living. And I'm not discounting the younger generation. I'm friends with a lot of younger people who struggle, who have to put their groceries on a credit card because they just can't make ends meet. And it's only going to get worse. So, this is what we're fighting for. This is what, it's funny how we have this guy in the White House that says America first, but yet that's not what he's doing. That's not what he's doing.
It's true.
At all.
It's true.
And this is the end game. This is the end game to defeat him. But we have to take the right path. And when people like Graham Flattner and Mallory McMorrow step aside or we reveal who they are, well, that's the things that happen. Those are the what do you call it, tragedies along the way that that happen. So
without a doubt.
Anyway. Yeah.
Oh, man. Good to talk to you. And I wanted to get your thoughts, obviously, in these areas. Guys, listen, make sure you're following Kurt on social media, of course. Hoosier Blue 63 is the handle, and you can catch him on all the socials. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning, my friend. We will talk to you again next week.
Hey, yeah, Richard, thank you, and I appreciate it. And look, I don't want to make anybody upset. I'm not trying to, I want to ruffle feathers and get people to think, but I don't, I'm not trying to make anyone mad. So
yeah, I know you are, man.
So
I got you.
Anyway, so thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Quick break, guys. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM, 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and the progressive voice of Minnesota, AM 950. I'm Richard Chu. When we come back, we'll be talking with Dr. Thomas Fisher. We'll be right back.
He's not here to yell. He's here to inform and maybe stir the pot. This is Choose Views with Richard Chu.
All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you are just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu. We're in our second hour, and thanks to Kurt Mullett for hanging out with us and rattling up things a little bit, making a little bit of noise, getting us to think about things outside of the box a little bit, and that's a good thing. Someone else that's been doing that, but also saving lives in the meantime, is Dr. Thomas Fisher, who's been with us before. You guys remember Dr. Fisher was running for Congress and succeeded in doing something that a lot of people didn't do. But and in some ways, when you think about Dr. Abdul Sayed, who's running for Senate in Michigan, he's doing this similar thing, which is focusing on why our systems in healthcare are problematic, faulty, need repair, whatever the wording is. And Dr. Fisher really made it a big part of his platform during his campaign to talk about that. And I want to welcome Dr. Fisher back to the show. Good morning, sir. Good to see you again.
Richard, good morning. Thanks for having me on. It's good to see you. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in the studio this morning, which is always better, but this is still pretty cool. It's great to see you.
It works. It works. Thanks again. And you guys may remember that a couple of weekends ago, I was able to moderate a little forum that we had as part of the Ida B. Wells Festival, and Dr. Fisher was one of the panelists, along with Devorah Crable and Dr. Anthony Douglas, as well as Congresswoman Robin Kelly. And Dr. Fisher was there to talk about how voting impacts so many parts of our society that we know, but sometimes we forget about it from a policy standpoint. When we don't vote, or when we don't have participation, higher participation, then sometimes the minority vote wins, and then we have policies that impact us in ways that are harmful to our society. So, Dr. Fisher, let's talk about systems for a moment. You've really leaned into this since I first met you about how we've got to fix some of the systems in many facets of the country, but in the medical field or in medicine particularly. Let's start off by talking about that.
Yeah, I think I had an inkling of this when I was a younger doctor. And at that time, there was a whole lot of language about teaching patients how to use the healthcare system. There was a lot of conversation about educating people about how to eat, teaching individuals about health behaviors. And those things are all important, right? People need to be able to make the types of decisions that allow for them to maintain their health and steer clear of risky foods and health behaviors. But then as I became a more senior physician, had seen more and more, and as the world became, the conversations we started having changed, we began to realize, well, not everybody has the same choices available to them. So even if they know, they still can't necessarily ensure that they are able to avoid fast foods. We learned about food deserts. We recognized that, health behaviors exist within a context. And I began to shift and now fully believe that those of us with the most privilege and power have the most responsibility for shaping things. And institutions of healthcare, institutions that provide food and transportation and the resources that we need for wellness have the responsibility to change more so than the individuals. Because individuals, if you have 10 options available to you on a daily basis and only 2 of them keep you healthy, man, you got to be perfect every day.
Yeah.
Whereas if you live in a different community and you have 10 options available to you and 8 of them will keep you healthy, well, you could be lackadaisical. You're going to end up okay no matter what.
Yeah. Choices.
Who gets which option?
Yeah. And that's, tell us why our systemic, or tell us how systems have caused that to go awry or to have that imbalance in the country.
Yeah. So when we look at things like our elections, and I think this is where we were in a very good place on the panel, we often point at voters not voting in their own interest, right? Whether those are white Kansans or Black Southsiders, like, man, why didn't you vote for so-and-so? They would have been better for you. And we don't recognize that those voters are often shaped by social media. They're often voter suppressed, particularly when we think about Black voters in the South, where they don't have the capacity to vote. Our elections are on work days that are not holidays. Not everybody can take that day off or plan in advance. We don't always have the capacity to fully mobilize folks. And while we say things like, yes, you need to be fully aware, you know, our ancestors got out there anyway, all of that is true, right? But that doesn't alleviate us from recognizing that until we make it so that everybody is able to vote, we're not going to see a full democratic system. And without a fully democratic system, you know, it's the tyranny of these, you know, the small groups who do have full power, who have always had full power. I mean, I think it's important to recognize that, you know, for a long time in this country, Jim Crow was the majority view.
A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think it was just the states that came out of enslavement, if you will, that were practicing the tenets of Jim Crow. And I'm here to tell you that there were some parts of northern states or non-quote southern, you know, Confederate states that had parts of that in their activities, I guess is maybe the word I'll use. And that's that just goes to show that the Jim Crow mindset was a system that was the attempt was to implement it wherever it was saleable, I guess is a good way of putting it.
Yeah. And it's an uncomfortable truth, which means not only do we have the responsibility to create the sorts of organizational systems where everybody can vote, whether that's by mail, whether that's online, whether that's in person, whether that's early, whether that's where elections are on holidays, whether or not that means people get registered every time they get an ID. But then we also have to win the argument as well. Like, it's not just, well, let's educate people or let's just make sure people can vote. We've got to do both. And I worry about our current Democrats' capacity to fully address these structures that both suppress the vote, but also then go on to shape the communities that we live in and the ones that advantage some and disadvantage the other, because they're linked. They're part of the same sort of political environment, because, you know, things like whether or not you have safe streets, that's political.
Yeah. You know, I'll ask this question, and I know the answer to it, but maybe a little bit of texture before we go to a break. If you had been elected to Congress, and in terms of your current belief on this, would you have pushed for or found the folks to push for making certainly our federal elections, our national elections, a holiday?
I am so in favor of that idea that it seems like at face value, it's so obvious that it's hard to imagine that we aren't there right now. If you actually have the election day where it means people don't have to go to work, it also elevates our democracy and our conversation. It puts our money where our mouth is, right? Mm-hmm. If we actually believe that our democracy is important, so important that we have, July 4th is a holiday, right? So important that we stop time to recognize the sacrifices folks have made, recognize the importance of our traditions. Well, Election Day ought to be one of those days where, like, okay, let's prove it. Everybody, come on out.
Come on out. Dr. Fisher, Thanksgiving's a holiday that people get off from work.
Please talk about this.
Listen, I like to eat just like the rest of us do, and we need to for sustenance and all the other reasons. But, you know, I'll trade Thanksgiving for voting being a holiday. And listen, here's the thing about that. We get that once every 2 years, depending on how we look at it as it relates to the midterms and all the rest. So let's take a quick break, Dr. Fisher. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. And for the folks up in Minnesota, the progressive voice of Minnesota is AM 950. I'm talking with Dr. Thomas Fisher, and we'll be right back. welcome back to Chew's Views. If you're just tuning in, I'm Richard Chew, talking with Dr. Thomas Fisher, who is a trauma surgeon, emergency room specialist, certified, board-certified emergency room physician here in Chicago, at the University of Chicago. And Dr. Fisher, before we went to the break, we were talking about the need for us to make the voting day a holiday, our federal, at least our national, being a holiday. And, you know, we celebrate Thanksgiving as a holiday. People get the day off. So nobody out there get upset about me saying I'll trade, you know, and that's only, I'll trade the two. If we're having a little bit of, you know, horse trading here, I'll take voting day as a holiday over Thanksgiving every 4 years or every 2 years, depending. Let me ask you this question about local. Well, here's how I want to frame this question. One of the things that I said earlier with regard to states' impact is what, you know, we need to be doing when it comes to our elections and what concerns might be taking place with the elections this fall. And I said that it's important that we see blue state leaders, governors, AGs, lieutenant governors, secretaries of state, and the two chambers that are if they're Democratic run, we need to start to well up and suit up for things now and not wait until the last week of October to say, oh yeah, and I know that there's a lot of effort going on, but I feel like we need to see a much broader, stronger shouldered, heads up kind of fight or preparation rather for the fight that's coming because of what the federal administration, Trump specifically, wants to do when it comes to our voting rolls and data and all that. What are your thoughts there? Because there's 5 or 6 states right now that are leaning into this and getting ready. But give me your thoughts about us being even more prepared for the fall.
I'm a little worried, like you are, and so many others who recognize that the federal government is currently threatening. Hasn't promised, but threatening to deploy things like ICE and other resources in order to suppress votes in districts that are swing and are looking like they're moving to blue. Even Senate races may see voter suppression in particularly blue districts. And I think there's a lot of things we can do if we're both honest about the threat and then also and prepared. One is we need to message about this more effectively. And, you know, part of that is this conversation right here, that this risk exists. And I'm thankful to see other folks having conversations like this. Many of our organizations are starting to gear up, particularly places like the ACLU and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, who are preparing to pass the sort of lawsuits that can ensure that voter suppression isn't happening or that there's remediation to ensure there are enough polling places open in the places where our voters are getting suppressed, and making sure that they stay open late enough, and making sure that people who have been purged from rolls get their franchise back and are able to vote. And so we have the opportunity to support those organizations in advance. There's organizations like voteriders.org that are helping people get out to vote and making sure if they need if they're not sure what ID they need, they can get that. They have that in preparation. And then Chicagoans, which is where we are, but also across the nation, we've seen folks mobilize around issues like this very recently, where when ICE was in our communities, we saw folks with using their phones to take videos, to capture the activities of ICE, which in real time helped to limit their scope and influence. Yeah. And then were used by some of these organizations to file as evidence in suits against their overreach and their illegal activities. And so everyday citizens can continue to use their tools, their voices, their technology in order to capture those pieces of information in real time and limit the scope. But, you know, we are also up against the resources of the federal government, which are ultimately limitless. And so we have to be organized, focused, and forward-leaning in getting this stuff done.
Yeah, great point. I wanted to get your take on this. I'm not asking you to pick sides or pick favorites, but one of the things that is definitely part of the platform of someone that's running for Senate in Michigan. There's two candidates now, Haley Stevens and Dr. Abdul Sayed. He is unrelenting and unapologetic, as I said before, about the importance of taking care of our medical systems and the people that are in the system that are fighting through that which they do have or is made available to them. And it goes back to, kind of your platform in the sense that we've got to take care of that one. That's a big one for us, and we can't keep fumbling the ball there. What are your thoughts and observations? And I'm making the assumption that you paid any attention to that race or to some of his platform.
Yeah, I have paid a fair amount of attention to that race. I mean, it's not Illinois, so not as much as I would in my own backyard, for a couple of reasons. One, I am excited about a physician running. I think we need more people who have real world experience at the running for election, whether that's physicians or teachers, or people who worked in, on assembly lines, people who understand everyday life. I think is important to be in these roles. And then when they're done, go back, which was the original goal of public service. And he's spoken very clearly about the importance of not only our day-to-day healthcare system, but also linking that to our public health system to not only better care for individuals, which is being eroded through cuts to things like Medicare, Medicaid in particular, but also the assault on science and the impact on public health. He is an expert at these things, educated and working through the pandemic as a public health leader in those times, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
And I want to make sure that those real, tangible policy choices can be made differently with the right kind of leadership. I think too often we point to like, oh, well, this is all about these for-profit entities and their quarterly goals. Well, many of our nonprofit hospitals act the same way.
Yeah.
Many leaders of these nonprofit organizations were steeped in this for-profit thinking. And that's a question of leadership.
Yeah. Wow.
Right?
What an interesting perspective on that. And a lot of people don't hear that. I'm going to say exposure, but I don't mean that in a negative way. But that explanation about how sometimes the profit motive or the motive that takes away still caring for whomever it is that's inside of that system is still the most important thing. Dr. Fisher, here's one for you as we wrap up, and I've been wanting to ask you about this in terms of the states. What are some of the things that you think that states can do, given the federal government's weight on our shoulders right now in so many capacities, so many areas? It's changing our ability to have certain capacity. But what are some of the things that you think that states can be doing to try to make healthcare more affordable and lowering some of the prices of being in the system?
Yeah, it's really difficult for states to have nearly as much influence as the federal government because most of the dollars that are in the healthcare system are federal dollars through Medicare, through the matching funds at Medicaid. The states can help to influence those dollars. They can do a whole lot of work in order to ensure that their votes have influence. One of the things we talked about at the Ida B. Wells conversation around election was the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, where states choose to give all of their electoral college votes to the popular vote winner. And if we get to that, then we have a much more democratic process. I also think that there's something that we don't talk about often enough, that nonprofit medical systems, which the majority are, have in order to maintain their nonprofit status, have a community responsibility, right? That they have to report every year, that the states evaluate them for. There can be more or less responsibility in that responsibility. Some of them are saying, well, we educate the future physicians, and so that's our responsibility. Some are doing community benefits interventions like, helping to support food pantries. But cheaper care is part of that too. And if the nation's states and states' attorneys wanted to say, you know what, for the future, one of the things we really need to do is improve access to these institutions, and we want to see that in your community benefits, that could be an effective tool. Mm-hmm. The challenge is all of these healthcare systems are somewhat struggling. The majority of the money is not in the provider side. It's not in the hospitals. It's not in the doctor's offices. It's in the devices and drug companies' hands. There's a fair amount of money in insurance also, but they're more or less middle people. And so if you lean too heavily on these healthcare systems and not where the money really is, which is government and these other private sector entities, we risk seeing more West suburban hospitals. And I don't want to see our safety net collapse. I don't want to see our academic medical centers struggle. I want to make sure that they are responsibly providing high quality healthcare to literally everybody, regardless of their ability to pay. And I want to see them do that in every community where people don't have to travel long distances.
Dr. Thomas Fisher, always bringing us insider knowledge in this space, with his political chops being pretty doggone good as well. Thanks for being with us again this morning. Always a joy to hang out with you for a little bit. Have a great rest of the week, Doc. We appreciate you.
Richard, thank you for having me. I look forward to doing it again soon.
Sounds good. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM, Warren County, North Carolina, and AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. I'm Richard Chu, if you're just tuning in. Today on Live Local and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be talking to Greg Hines, Rick Smith, as part of our show, Live Local and Progressive, here on WCPT, Heartland Signal, and TuneIn. Tonight, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. Wednesday, guest host Ken Mejia Beal. They'll be talking to Heather Weischer, Pam Hamill, Marcus King, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. Weekdays, 5 to 7 here on CPT, Heartland, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And tune in tomorrow. Me and Mike Nellis, Steve Phillips, and Kate Lincoln Goldfinch will be chopping it up during this show. Right now, we haven't talked in a while, but I am been excited about this because of all the work that they've been doing recently. H.H. Leonard's is the bio reads like a movie script, Henry. Her bio, I should say. She's been in the game for a long time, and I say that respectfully. I don't want her to get after me for saying she's been in the game for a long time. She's co-founder of 51 Steps to Freedom. Good morning, HH, and welcome back to Choose Views.
It's a pleasure to hear your voice again, and welcome Chicago, my favorite city in America.
What is happening, girl? It's so good to hear your voice too. I've got this big smile on my face. I was like talking to HH again, and she's gonna bring it home for us on what's now. We've gotten through our anniversary. We've gotten through our and I say that respectfully because, good Lord, talk to us. What's going on in D.C.?
So what's going on in the country and in D.C. is we're celebrating our 250th anniversary. Growing up in Indiana and being a sports fanatic and being patriotic, this is like my year. And I'm turning 76 this year, which is exciting. So no, I don't get upset about my age. I'm so happy to be alive. I'm so happy to get up every morning and have a mission and a vision of who we need to become as a country and come together in joy and hope and opportunity.
Without a doubt. My big sister, Linda, you guys are contemporaries. She turns 76 later this year as well. And every year she's like, I'm proud to be that age because it means a lot. I got through a lot. I've impacted a lot and all the rest. So I hear you loud and clear. She does. So she's like, don't tease me. I love people talking. She's not that person that says she, tries to hide her age being younger than she is. She embraces all of her 75 years at this point. So I hear you. Talk a little bit about signing the promise, and before you do that, HJ, let's back up a little bit. Let our audience know, because some people may have forgotten or a little bit disconnected or distracted from what 51 Steps to Freedom is all about, and then talk about signing the promise.
Sure. So 51 Steps to Freedom is transforming the Washington and our country into the largest outdoor museum in the world using augmented reality and music and animation and bringing home history in a TikTok moment to our youth, teaching about civic engagement. So Signing the Promise is a national activation, and we hope all you listeners out there will want to do this in your churches, in your schools, in your synagogues, in your homes, is to pick up your phone after downloading this fantastic free browser and seen George Washington and Thomas Jefferson come to life, and in a minute and a half talk about why you should recommit to our founding fathers' vision of America and sign the Declaration of Independence, which is about the promise of equality for all.
What's interesting about it, and I want you to talk a little bit also about the partnerships that you've been able to pull together. But the signing of the Declaration in this moment, signing the promise, for me, and I hope that this is something that other folks are able to articulate, is it's participating in the process. It's participating in this thing that we call democracy. And I think it gives people, not to oversimplify it, HH, but it gives them something to do, to say, yes, I'm not going to be distracted or defeated or depressed about all that's happening. I want to be a part of this thing. Does that make sense how I'm saying that?
Yes, it does. And you really articulated what we are doing for our country in bringing it together, because we are more alike than we are different. If we understanding the founding fathers' principles of America and recommit to it, and you need to do that every generation. We all need to participate in our country with joy and hope, because only with that can you make a difference. Mrs. Rosa Parks lived with me for 10 years, and that's what she taught me. We need to come together with people that might not think like we do, but have hearts and understand that, hey, let's get to know each other. Let's share bread. Let's break bread. And let's talk about how we want to help other people. Because without those talks, laws roll back. We need to embrace everybody, whether we're the same or different. We need to come together.
You know, you said something a moment ago. So two things I want to make sure I do not forget. And one of them is every generation. The other one is coming together and our differences. First, I want to talk about the every generation. It reminds me of a song by jazz artist Roy Ayers, Every Generation. And the song gets into talking about how we have to remind, each generation's got to be reminded of the fact that we got here because of what a previous generation or generations did or may have tried to do, because they knew that it was going to be important for the next generation to have whatever the have is. And so that's the part sometimes that I think wording is maybe better used, HH, is to say each generation has to be reminded, and not from a dogmatic or dictatorial way, but just from an inspirational way. Would you agree?
You are so articulate. I wish I could speak as well as you do, because that is what we're all about. That's what we need to remember, that no matter what the noise is around us, we need to figure out our mission and our vision. And our founding fathers had it right. We have a promise that we need to try to come together in every generation to understand who we want to become and how we go forward. And you can't do that if you shut yourself into a little room and you don't listen and you don't communicate with other people. Mrs. Parks, wherever we traveled around the country, she would always go to Klan meetings, for example. And the first few ones that I went with her, I was scared. And she said, no, you have to understand that if somebody touches my hand and shakes it, I've changed a heart. And that's what we need to do. One heart at a time.
Yeah. And one of our good friends of the show and the station, and certainly sits in for me every now and again, Michelle Peltier, talks about saving our society one person at a time. And Mrs. Parks was definitely about that. HH, I want to also ask you this question with regard to conversations with people who we don't agree with. We may not even like, for that matter. And it's in your lifetime, what has that taught you, and what is it that you feel all of us can learn from having those conversations from the one that might be the hardest person to have the conversation with on any issue, politics, race, gender, economics? What has it taught you?
One of the most important things is that whenever you're in a room, reach out and shake somebody's hand, no matter who they are or what they believe. It's in the holding of their hand that you understand how similar you can be if you open up and listen to what everybody says. And I think it's listening that's important, because no matter what someone says, there's a piece of them that can see another world by that handshake. It's a simple thing.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, reach out and touch somebody. And that's how you make them understand that, yes, we do have some similarities here and there. And it's not about politics. It's about being open to listen to other people. And that's what you do on your show. You open people's hearts. They see different parts of the world they hadn't thought about.
Well, thank you for
And it's surprising. And it's surprising how much I learn from the people that I might not agree with, because I hear what they're saying and I go, maybe there's some truth in that. Oh, I never thought of that. And that's what's made 51 Steps to Freedom as important as it's becoming, because we listen to other people's stories and we incorporate them into ours.
You know what's interesting about that, H, and this is when we talk about the learning from others that you may not agree with or like or whatever the case may be. Here's what's happened for me, and I try my best to stay aware of this, is a lot of times it's not what it's not that I'm going to necessarily agree with that person on what they say or think or believe, but if I try to hear it as best I can, and I know that we fall short in that space, sometimes what happens is you walk away from that conversation and I don't know if you do this or not, you may be then forced to do some research or some further looking into what the person said. And although you may not agree with them, the process of looking into what they said teaches you something, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
Yep, you've got it. You're right on. And when you talked about music, that's one of the greatest things that we have to listen to, because it opens up our hearts to other perspectives through the melody. Sometimes it's the lyrics, but a lot of times it's just the melody. It's the space between that you understand your commonalities.
Yeah, it's funny. One of our engineers here, Henry, is a musician as well, and he's nodding his head profusely right now, going, "Yes, it's exactly that." H, we're going to take a little bit of a break. Got to do that real quickly. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about more of the work that you've been doing and some of the awards that are happening through the O Museum. Tell folks about that. The number is 773-763-9278. You are listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM, as well as 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu, talking with H.H. Leonards, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you're just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu. I got a little bit of a cleanup on aisle 7 as I was talking with H about Every Generation. The song was by Ronnie Laws, great saxophone player. I got that mixed up with Roy Ayers, but either way, a tap into my thought about music and how that's a connective tissue for us. H, I said this earlier. Your bio reads like a movie script in terms of your work with, of course, 51 Steps, your marketing prowess. But tell us a little bit about the O Street Museum and it's the foundation, and some of the awards recently honoring Rosa Parks that were presented to a few people.
So the O Museum in the Mansion is 38,000 square feet in the center of Washington. It's interactive. It's immersive. It's got digital portals, secret doors. You discover by finding the secret doors who you want to become. It's amazing. And what's great about it is people talk to each other there. They go to other museums and everyone's told, don't touch. We want you to touch history here. And by being able to sit and immerse yourself in history, you get to know the people that come through the room, and you talk to them and you hear their stories, because the world is about stories and getting to know people. And again, it's that connecting with the past so that you can focus on who you want to become in the future. And that's what we've done by creating the largest outdoor museum in the world. The same sort of things. We've taken the O Museum philosophy of connecting with people, sharing your stories, getting to know each other, feeling history, into being able to do that on the streets of America. So we bring history to life where you are outside. You don't have to go into a museum. You just pick up your phone. You don't need the expense of the headsets or the eyeglasses. You do it with what's accessible and what is free. And you do it with joy, because it's not just history, it's lessons in survival. Because if you learn about what's happened, you can figure out what's happening now and what part you play in making it better.
How are you impacted by, and I say this personally and as an organizational leader, so I'll say personally and professionally, how have you been impacted by this attempt by the White House, or Donald Trump specifically, to change monuments, change historical buildings, build new crazy things in Washington, D.C., and how is that impacting you?
So it's expanding the opportunity to create for us, because when I talk about getting to know people, there are some things that are good that are happening. Our monuments that we love and cherish and tell history in Washington are being repaired, and that is a positive. So you always look at the positive. And we're not rewriting history. We're telling it the way it was. We're featuring hidden figures in America that have made our country so great. So we're being able to amplify them and tell their story. And we were honored to be part of the State Fair opening day. 51 Steps had a half-hour program talking about Mrs. Rosa Parks, talking about Frederick Douglass, talking about racism in America and how we all need to participate in making a change to affect a positive impact and highlight what's happening. They allowed us that opportunity because we talk with them, we listen to them, and we share stories. So that's what I'm trying to say, and I'm not as articulate as you are, but they gave us an opportunity to talk about issues of today because we listened to what they were trying to do, and we share what we do together.
Yeah,
does that make any sense?
It completely does. I mean, and it may not be the thought,
and it might be surprising to you and your listeners. We were on opening day at the State Fair talking about Cancer in America's Society. We're given that opportunity.
Yeah, well, and then that's where, again, you go back to the conversation earlier where, sometimes you listening to someone that you may not agree with, you may find an opportunity you will find an opportunity to do some good in the core thing that you believe in and what your mission is all about. And that's what you were able to do, is to find a way to amplify the message so that people who may not have known real stuff about Rosa Parks, real stuff about 51 Steps, what you do. So I get it. Without a doubt, I completely get that. So cheers to you in that space. I got it. This may make you laugh a little bit. I was at the gym the other day, and there were a couple of people that were working out that I'd seen at the gym before. And, they made a comment about something, and I laughed. I was kind of in my own world doing my own thing, and I had a chuckle. And then one of the guys came over to me and he said, so let me bring you into our conversation because we've seen you here before and blah, blah, blah. So the question was about how we look physically and what our bodies are like. And it just made me chuckle because I thought about you and I thought about, Beauty Unites. And what made me think about it is the question was, it was two guys and a woman that were working out, and she was saying that she was working really hard to have her body look a certain way. And I thought about it from the perspective that you've taken with Beauty Unites, that all of our bodies look great as they are. And so share a little bit about your sort of beauty of the world thoughts in that space.
I guess I'm a Pollyanna, and I only see the best in everybody. And that's what I see, people's hearts. I see the purity that everyone has in their heart, given the opportunity to express themselves and open themselves up to the world. So going to the gym, I think, is really important because it allows people to do exactly that, share. And every day we want to make ourselves better. But for me, it's about the heart, the beauty inside, and that's what Beauty Unites hopes people discover about themselves. Share love. And Mrs. Parks's mantra was, love is all that matters. How each of us achieve that is through a different mechanism. But as long as we're working along those lines of understanding that it is about love, beauty is about love, coming together as a country is about love, getting along with our fellow man is about love, serving other people is about loving ourselves, because when you serve other people, that's part of love.
Well, and that the beauty of that, I guess you could say, is that the more we can lean in that or look for that in other people, the better. And I think it also provides us with sort of ongoing both teaching and learning moments, because if we can come from that perspective, and let's be honest, and I use the word Pollyanna, let's be real honest in this space. There's a lot going on right now that's pushing people away from that thought or that principle, that feeling. If we don't acknowledge that, I think it's hard for people to say, because, well, let me put it this way. I think people will then say, yeah, Richard, but I think that if we start from that perspective, that it's about trying to help us all move forward in a progressive, unified way, then it acknowledges that those challenges are there. It says that we're not living in a pie in the sky environment. And then it says, now let's set a path, let's set a course toward how we're going to make some things better. Does that make sense, H?
Oh, it's perfect. I mean, it's what you're saying is exactly right. And it starts with opening up your heart and understanding that we can affect change. Mrs. Parks did one simple thing. She refused to get up on her seat on her bus. She was an ordinary person that changed the world.
Yeah, she did.
But it wasn't just that one moment that she changed the world. The rest of her life, she focused in on doing the same things for other people. Every single breath she took was about serving others, teaching our youth about our country, about love of God, about love of family, and human rights. So we can, all of us, in our own way, can make the world better today. And I keep in mind one of our stories about Frederick Douglass was that his second wife was white. If he could do that in the 1880s, anyone can do anything in our political sphere of what's happening now by being positive, by serving others, by communicating, by talking to people that you might not like, but you'll find out maybe they become your best friends because you opened up a world to them. They didn't just open up a world to you. It's sharing.
Yeah, and it's allowing yourself to bring your best forward each opportunity that you can in this crazy time that we're in. I mean, there's no denying that we are facing a lot of those things, but if we can face them with the goal being that the other side of this is better. It takes unity to do it, though. It takes people coming together and saying,
music.
and music.
I think that's what people need to focus in on now is creating music, having people listen to all forms and all genres, and understanding that every piece of type of music is part of the fabric of our world. And if you haven't listened to jazz in a while, listen to jazz. And if you haven't listened to blues or even opera and classical music, open yourselves up to those things. That's the same thing as getting together as people.
Excuse me. I got a sneeze coming. I'm fighting it real hard, H.
Bless you. Bless you. Let it go.
It has always been, there's so many things that popped in my mind, and I'll just say this as we wrap up. You guys have got to take some time out of your day and follow what H is doing and get involved in the signing the promise. It's really important for all of us. I think it will plug you into an additional way of thinking about where we are. Not new, but an additional way to where we are. H, let folks know as we wrap up how they can find you, how they can be part of signing the promise, how they can get involved.
So go to 51 Steps to Freedom, and you'll see up in the upper left-hand corner of the website, Sign the Promise, and you can do it on your computer, or you can download the free Hoverlay browser and go into a whole nother world using augmented reality and sign it there and learn about our country through that. They're TikTok moments or less than 90 seconds, each of the stories around the Declaration of Independence.
Fantastic. She's a co-founder of 51 Steps to Freedom. H.H. Leonards, thank you so much for being with us this morning. We really appreciate your hard work and your 76 years of a whole bunch of good stuff. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Chicago. I can't wait to come back. Take care.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. All right, guys, listen, I am fighting a sneeze right now. I'm trying real hard not to let this one go. H said let it go, but believe me, it's probably going to be a neutron bomb if I do. But thanks to H for being with us this morning. She's always cheerful, always energetic. If you watch, I'll tell you what you guys should do. If you, I oftentimes say find the thing, maybe external to you, to give you some additional energy and some additional feel good. When you listen to her interviews or watch some of her interviews, which you can catch on YouTube and places like that, she is that person. She is that one of inspiration. She's always trying to find the other side of the story and ways to reach out to folks and bring good energy to them and then get some back for herself and the work that she does. So check out some of the stuff that she does. It'll help. It'll be one more thing to add to your arsenal of trying to stay ahead of the game in this crazy time that we're in right now. Thanks to our good friend, Dr. Thomas Fisher, for being with us this morning, as well as Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63. I'm going to go sneeze. But as I always say, guys, remember to stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show. Take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.